business at hand. So Jolene's going to take over from now.
All Jolene's saying is, if you still have a ballot, fill it out, give it to Kevin. And the biggest volunteer need we have right now is we need somebody to help do the newsletter. We're lacking in that department right now. It's on Microsoft Publisher. It probably is easy to do, but I'm already overextended, and we need some help. That's all. And Dan Kaiser is stepping down from his role as trustee this year, and so we've got a lot of time for him. I'll bring it to you. I won't make you go over there.
Thank you for your help, Dan.
I've got a shirt, but I'm saving it. Today was a busy day, and
He forgot.
He forgot.
But that's really all. And now, Dr. Gary Emerson.
yeah.
Dr. Gary.
You may start whenever you're ready.
All right, you probably all heard that there have been lake monsters seen in other lakes. The most famous one maybe being Leslie of Loch Ness in Scotland. But even in Lake Champlain, there's a monster that's been spotted called Champ. This is from 1829. An account of some children, 12 and 14 years old, said they saw an enormous water snake near the mouth of 10 Mile Creek, which is along Lake Ontario. They said this believe is not the first one of its kind been seen in Lake Ontario, and there can be no doubt of the existence of such monsters in our inland seas. Even as early on as then, people were claiming that they saw unusual things in the lakes of New York State. This is from 1867, near Sodas Point, and another report of a monster being seen, a serpent, and it says it was 30 feet long, big around as a man's body. So another monster was sighted in Lake Ontario. So its head elevated several feet above the water, and its huge form entirely visible near the surface. Looks like there's a close-up of that line there. Its head elevated above the water, and just was a pretty scary looking thing. Even the Iroquois had a legend about a serpent creature in Lake Ontario. They called it Onyare, and it had lethal, poisonous breath. Maybe it needed some mouthwash, I don't know, but it would tip over people in their canoes. This is a sighting in Cayuga Lake. It says Lake Cayuga now has a sea serpent as large as a snake, at least reported at Post Creek. This is in 1886. And they saw it in the vicinity of Kidder's Ferry. And the snake was lying around a rock, and only a portion of its body was exposed to view. It was judged to be 20 feet long, 6 to 8 inches in diameter. It's another sighting. It's from Watkins Glen. The summer resort interests of Cayuga Lake are being greatly injured by accumulating proofs its waters are home of a great sea serpent. The interesting thing I like here is it says, no such monster in Seneca Lake. It's too cold. It couldn't possibly exist in Seneca Lake. The Ontario Daily Times said there's no doubt a monster resided in Cayuga Lake. Some described it as 70 feet long. These things keep getting bigger and bigger all the time. And when people were going on their boats, they were so scared they were carrying shotguns in their boats in case they saw this thing. The Geneva Gazette and Penn Yan Democrat had other ideas about the monster sighting. They believed that these fishermen just had a little too much liquid bait in their swimming, and they thought they were just crazy. It's another monster stored in Cayuga Lake, or Canandaigua Lake, excuse me. And this was in the wintertime. There was the lake was frozen over, and suddenly the ice came bursting up. They thought it was some release of gas out of the lake or something that caused the lake ice to suddenly burst open. But then people said they saw some kind of creature in the lake. Half-moon shaped strip of open water in which the ice had been thrown. A huge dark form rose weirdly. A ponderous head was reared out of the ice. So even in the wintertime, people were seeing a monster in Canandaigua Lake. Now, one reason for people believe these sightings were possible is because of all the connections of the waterways in New York State. You've got Lake Ontario up here, but it's all connected to the Erie Canal. The lakes are all connected by streams. You also have the canal system at the time in the 19th century. So they believed that these serpents could travel all over the state, get into these various lakes and things, because they had this highway of canals and riverways to make that possible. We're going to talk more now about the Seneca Lake Monster that's been sighted at various times. 1899, this guy was catching fish near Geneva, and he kept noticing there was a hole in his net. So he decided some creature must have been chewing through it. So he decided to fix it and then try to catch this thing. So news spreads quickly about this strange creature lurking in Seneca Lake that's eating this guy's nets up all the time. So a number of men helped him get a stronger net, and they're going to stand guard and watch the net that night. A pistol shot would be the signal the creature had returned. In the morning, the net jerked, and 4 pistol shots later, a whole flotilla of boats came arriving on the scene. These guys all brought all kinds of weapons with them. They brought these fish spears, they brought shotguns, and they were going to slaughter this creature. And they took a hold of the net and they raised it, and they saw the serpentine body of a captive appeared above the surface. 5 gunshots rang out, and it was riddled from head to tail, and it proved to be a monster eel. 13 feet long, they claim. So there are freshwater lake eels. This is what one looks like. Probably not 13 feet long though, but that thing must have been pretty big. News comes from Geneva. The eel, 13 feet long, was captured on the west shore of Seneca Lake by a citizen of that place on a recent Sunday. It's believed to be a sea serpent which has been reported from Seneca Lake at different times during the last 15 years. The exchange remarks that this must be a true story because the Geneva drinking places are all closed on Sundays. So everybody must have been sober. So they believe that this is a true story. No liquid bait. An unusual story, though, is this one in 1900. The steamboat Oceani had an encounter with some kind of mysterious creature near Geneva on the lake. And it got in the newspapers. And it was killed by the steamboat's side wheel. So the Oceani, this steamboat, there's a model of it right here, was traveling on the north end of Seneca Lake near between Dresden and Willard. And they saw about 400 yards ahead what appeared to be an overturned boat. So they decided to go over and investigate. So they cruised up to this thing, and it appeared to be about 15 feet long with a sharp bow and a long, narrow stern. But as they got closer, they realized it was something else. They got within 100 yards, were going to lower a boat to help out, and the upturned boat suddenly turned and began to move away. Full speed ahead, said the captain, and this object's moving slowly, and the captain gained on it rapidly. And then the object turned, this time towards the boat, raised its head, looked in the direction of the boat, and its mouth displaying 2 rows of sharp white teeth, like shark's teeth. Captain said he would ram the creature, the only true-blooded American thing to do, right? Otherwise, he would kill it and take it aboard or tow it to Geneva. And so they decided that's what they're going to do. He cautioned everybody to get life preservers on and keep cool. He said he didn't know what would happen when they hit this thing. Some of the women were crying on the boat. They were scared. And the boat backed up some distance, picked up some speed to hit this thing. And they're watching this monster as they're gaining speed, moving towards it. And then suddenly the monster sank out of sight, disappeared. So the passengers declared they could see the dark outline of the creature's body, though, in the water still. So they started to continue their journey to Geneva, and then suddenly someone said, "There it is! It's come up again." So this creature, whatever it was on the surface of the water again. So the captain prepared to ram it. So instead of trying to strike it full on the side, the boat was maneuvered so the starboard paddle, the paddle wheel, would hit the creature about midway between its head and tail. And they got full steam up and they went towards this thing. And when they hit it, it really knocked everybody off their feet practically. I mean, people were like this when it hit. So this thing was pretty big, whatever they hit. So lying beside the steamer with a gap in its side was the monster, raised its head and gave a gasp and then lay quiet. Apparently the sea monster had some kind of drama in it. And they said its spinal column was broken, it was dead. They decided to try to lift it onto the boat. So they hooked up some ropes around it and things and tried to haul it into the boat. But the thing was so heavy, it slipped off the ropes, sank back down in the water because the men were afraid they were going to get pulled right overboard. It was so heavy, and it sank in the lake. And at this point in the lake, it's 600 feet deep. So they never saw this creature again. It just sank down to the bottom of the lake, and that was it. When it got to Geneva, they told stories about this. The monster was estimated from 25 to 50 feet in length. So it's like a fish story. It was this big. It kept getting bigger every time someone retold the story. But there was a guy on board who was a geologist, G.R. Elwood. And he was from Ontario, Canada. And he was one of the boats that made a rope around the carcass. And he said this was a Cladastes. Well, Cladastes actually is a prehistoric creature. They don't exist anymore. Okay. Apparently, the Seneca Lake Monster is even literate. This is a letter to the editor, supposedly written by the Seneca Lake Monster. Do not know nor have ever wanted to have those two people who published that rag sheet in your town stuffed down my throat. I have a chronic stomach condition, and I wish you would take that into consideration when you are making plans in the future. Love, whatever that is, the Seneca Lake Monster. Now, there's a whole psychology behind all of this. I mean, humans kind of assume control over waterways for commerce, recreation, transportation, but we can't see what's below the water line. And seeing something in the water we can't explain raises the possibility of something unknown or unnatural, and that creates a sense of fear in us. We tend to name these monsters with cute names, Nessie, Champ, Bessie, to allay our fears, but we see nature as something kind of benign, but nature actually poses an existential threat to us because there are things in nature that we can't control that can be deadly to us, like a pandemic, like a tornado, or something we don't know about in the water. And that unknown is what creates the fear. And Alfred Hitchcock was a master in his movies of always not really showing you the monster. You wouldn't see it till later in the film. You would see little movement of it or foot of it or something, but you wouldn't get to see the monster because that helps build that fear in people watching the movie. And it's kind of like that. This is John Armstrong in Canada looking for the monster. Hasn't found it yet. Still looking.
I like that too.
Yeah, he's got a haircut like that one monster in Watkins. So, I want to do a little self-promotion here for a minute. We do run a Newfield Library Reading Discussion Group. We just finished it for the spring here in April, but we pick a few history books and we read them, then we sit down and have a discussion on them. It's the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. It'll start again in September. These are some of the books we're going to be reading in the fall. American Midnight's about World War I era and the years afterwards, when there really was kind of a crisis about people's liberty. There was a lot of censorship, freedom of press was really under attack. There's a lot of fear of communism. There's a Red Scare going on. And this book's about Margaret Sanger. She was born in Corning, New York. She became the founder of the birth control movement in America. And this talks about her story of her life and all the trials and tribulations she went through. And then this book is about the battle between Harry Truman and General MacArthur during the Korean War. So if you're interested in reading history and sitting down and talking about these books, then I wish you would join us at the library here in Newfield, starting in September. I also do walks in Montour Falls on the beautiful Catherine Valley Trail. So if you ever want to join me, come over there some Saturday in the morning. 10 a.m. is when we start the walks, and we walk along the trail. You'll see where the Chemung Canal was. We go to the site of where Catherine's town was, Queen Catherine Montour. The village is named after. And we just talk about some of the history of the things over there, the buildings and stuff. You can actually see where some of this history happened. You also learn about how Montour Falls got its name. I also do walks in Watkins Glen. These are some of the dates for those walks. We start at the pier on Seneca Lake, where Captain Bill's boat rides are, and we do about an hour walk through the village, talking about some of the history of Watkins Glen. And there's some pretty amazing things that happened along the way there that we'll talk about. And I guess that's it. So thank you for inviting me today. Thanks for coming. Anybody have any questions?
Can you back up to the Catherine Valley?
Sure can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? No. That's-
Do bears swim from that 1960s one?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Do bears swim? Because it was that thing in the water was black.
Oh, bears swim, yeah.
I'm thinking that they're there.
Yep. Possibly, yeah. The one that we saw the film of, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Of course, it always kills me because these videos of these things like these monsters and Bigfoot, they're always very blurry. You can't quite make out what
And
it
it was
is.
2011 and it was in black and white.
Yeah. So, I don't know, who knows what else. But, it's kind of weird looking. But the curious thing to me though is that thing that the Oceani hit in 1900, that was pretty big.
Yeah.
And that's kind of curious about what that thing was. I mean, a lot of people on board that boat saw this thing, and that seemed pretty real. So that's kind of a curious thing that happened. Right.
It just seems odd, like even on this, they were all on vacation of some kind, right? On this boat touring, that nobody had a camera.
In 1900,
Well, yeah,
a lot of people didn't. Cameras were expensive and they were big and they were clumsy.
well, it's
Um,
geologists.
Yeah.
Well, but even later, even by the 30s, they all went out with shotguns, so why didn't they go with a camera?
Today they'd all have their cell phones. But, yeah, I don't know. No one seemed to think about taking a picture of it. No. No. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Don't make me take pictures. Get back there and help yourself.
You have your ballots and have not turned them into Kevin and do it today.
Very good. That was awesome. Great to see you. My wife and I were going to catch up with you. I didn't like it on the trail.
Oh, yeah. Sounds really, really neat. It's cool. See you again.
Likewise, this is Haley. This is my
Hi
daughter.
Haley, how are you? I had this guy in class. I sent him to the office every day. He's always in trouble.
Every day. Sometimes
No,
twice.
he was good. I never had a problem. Sure, thank you.
Oh, these are separate.